Lynn's not home yet, she replied. She's not answering her phone either. I'm sure she's fine, he said, trying to soothe her nerves. His words were barely out when his phone rang. He looked at the screen and saw that it was Lynn. He frowned. She never called him, and certainly not at such a late hour. Hello? He said. Frazer, can you come to Fisherman's Bar? I'm trapped, she said, but the line went dead before he could reply. Hello? Hello? He called, but he was talking to no one. He hung up the phone, realizing that Natalia was right to worry. Lynn must have met with some trouble. Who was that? Asked Natalia. Frazer thought for a moment and decided not to tell her, deciding that it would be best not to worry her more than he needed to. Jordan Whitehead, he said. I bumped into him this afternoon, and he said we'd try and meet up this evening. I'll just go and see him quickly. But don't worry, he added when he saw the look of disapproval on her face. I won't be gone long. With that, he put on his coat and walked back out of the house. Oh, I thought I told you that man and his friends are nothing but trouble, she shouted, but he wasn't listening. If you ignore me, don't ever come back. Frazer got into the car, wondering which was the lesser of the two evils Natalia had presented him with. If he left, she would be angry. But if he stayed at home and didn't help her sister, he would be in even more trouble. He pulled out of the driveway just as Sheila was driving up. She wound down her window and asked suspiciously, Where are you going so late? Does Natalia know where you're going? No, he replied. But knowing Sheila's ability to stir, he decided to tell her the truth. As she promised to keep a secret, he drove off. Lynn had made the call to Frazer from the bathroom at Fisherman's Bar. She tried to stay hidden in one of the stalls. Despite Lynn's protests, she visited the bar because several of her classmates had persuaded her to party with them, despite her being vocal about wanting to go home. Once she had arrived at the bar, a few boys surrounded her and refused to let her go. Standing behind them had been Sharon McKenzie, Krina's younger sister, and she was out for revenge for Krina's dismissal at the restaurant the previous week. Sharon and Lynn had initially been friends, but because of an incident at their school's beauty pageant last year, they had fallen out. Sharon had caused quite a lot of trouble for her over the week, but none of it had caused Lynn any harm until she arrived at the bar that evening. In desperation, she had managed to struggle free of the boys and run to the bathroom, where she locked herself in a stall and called Frazer. However, before Frazer could get to her, Sharon's henchman caught her. So, the school beauty has returned. I hope you're going to have a drink with us, Sharon teased. Sharon laughed as she spoke and signaled for someone to push Lynn onto the couch beside her. She picked up another bottle of wine and said, Lynn, do you know how much this bottle of wine costs here? The people around them laughed, and one of them said, She's just a poor girl. I doubt she's even seen such a good bottle of wine before. That's right. Lynn needs to thank you. If it weren't for you, she would never have been able to attend such a luxurious party. Sharon continued acting rudely. Hearing everyone's flattery, Sharon's face lit up. She opened the bottle and said, Don't say that. Lynn is someone who has drunk the best wine before. Although this bottle's not the best, it's still a good wine. You want to try it, Lynn? I'm sorry, but I'm not interested, said Lynn. She tried to get up to leave, but the man who had been holding her down stood in front of her and said, Lynn, do you know how much money Miss McKenzie has spent on this party? Just to rent this place for the night was $30,000. The food and wine you can see on this table cost several $1,000s more. You can leave it if you want to, but won't you be missing out? Sharon smiled proudly as she fiddled with her nails. She said, This is no big deal. I like having fun, no matter how much it costs. But since you don't want us to have a good time together, Lynn, then the least you can do is pay for the wine. What do you say?" She snapped her fingers and called the waiter over. Looking at Lynn's discontented face, she ordered several bottles of the most expensive wine. On hearing her order the wine, one of the people there said, "Miss Mackenzie is very generous. This wine must be costing her a lot of money." "Including the previous order, it must be in the thousands by now. I think that even if Lynn sold herself, she wouldn't be able to afford it," Sharon's accomplice spoke. As the laughter rang out, Sharon gestured at Lynn and said, "I'll take a check or cash." Lynn was being humiliated, and her cheeks turned red in embarrassment. Sharon saw her embarrassment and felt happy. The sight of Lynn's discomfort made her feel more emboldened to act superior in front of her. "What? Don't you have any money? In that case, I want you to drink everything on this table." Sharon startled her with the proposition. The crowd burst into an uproar. They looked at each other, and several of them thought that her actions were a little too excessive. "She's going to make her drink all the wine on the table. That might be enough to kill her," someone murmured. A girl who was good friends with Sharon said, "Sharon, why don't we order some more?" Another person said, "No, don't do that. It might really kill her." Sharon rolled her eyes and said, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Just feed it to her. If one of you will make sure that she drinks it, I'll reward you with $1,000. Upon hearing that, many of the students' eyes lit up. For a student, $1,000 was enough for a month of living expenses. "I'll do it," said one. The young man who had previously blocked Lynn's way picked up a bottle of wine, grabbed Lynn's jaw, and started pouring it into her mouth. She shook her head madly, trying her best to resist. She coughed and sputtered violently. Soon, her face, hair, neck, and clothes were all soaked with wine. Further on, she had been forced to drink quite a bit. "Let me go! I have to go!" she shouted at the man pouring the wine. Others just wanted to drink more wine before it was wasted on Lynn. "I don't like Lynn, but I'll drink some of her wine," another student spoke. More people joined in the drinking while Sharon took out her cell phone and pointed it at Lynn. While recording her, she smiled sinisterly and said, "This is what happens when you act against me. A pathetic person like you, without money, is helpless against a rich girl like me. I'll make you suffer tonight." Lynn continued to struggle and resist. "I don't drink. Let me go. Let me go," she cried. Eventually, Frazer arrived on the scene. He was furious when he saw that Lynn was being bullied. He had seen bullies before, but he had rarely seen one who was so excessive. "Stop!" he shouted. His shout immediately attracted the attention of a lot of people. Everyone looked, but only a few people recognized him. "Who are you? Mind your own business. This is a private party," Sharon spoke proudly. "He wants to play the hero by saving a damsel in distress," a short, half-drunk student yelled. "I recognize him. Isn't he Lynn's worthless brother-in-law?" Another voice sounded. "Frazer!" Lynn shouted as she pushed through the crowd and ran toward him. Realizing that she was drunk, Frazer went up to her and supported her. When he saw the state she was in, he got outraged. "Oh, I was wondering who it was," said Sharon. "So, it's you. You sorry excuse for a man. Are you trying to take your sister-in-law away?" Frazer glared at Sharon in disgust but didn't say a word.
To watch the full episode, install the Pocket FM app